So I know I've been going about my mouse videos completely wrong, as they usually tend to tank, which just stinks. It really does. But I know first impressions and early reviews, like get them out as quick as you can, are the ways to generate the views and again the impressions on your videos. But for me in gaming gear, like it's come to this point with gaming mice especially, where it's like it can really mess with my mind. Like I'm super hyped up for it. I'm using them like, man, this thing is awesome. But then, how is it performing over a long period of time? Do I let that excitement kind of settle down? And how does it feel, or how is it performing over that long test period? And that's exactly where this mouse I'm going to show you today truly sits. So I'm going to give you a long-term review of this mouse, and my point really resonates again with this review here. And the mouse we're going to be talking about today is the new WLmouse Strider. As you see, I have the white color, but it does come in multiple color variations as well. And as far as accessories in your box, you get a lot of cool stuff. Your detachable USB A to C cable, your up to 8,000 polling rate dongle. You actually get a 1,000 polling rate dongle, which is super cool if you maybe just use it on a laptop or something, or on a different PC. Really cool to include too. You get some dot skates. You get some extra skates here, which I already have installed on my mouse stock out of the gate. They do come with dots on them. I'm not a dot fan, hence the reason I went the bigger ones. You get some grips, 1 and 2, and then your sides, which again you can already see I have installed on here. We'll talk about that later. And you get this packet of a whole bunch of other grips as well. Really cool to include so many different accessories with this mouse. So let's first start off by taking a look at some raw measurements here, and we'll kick it off with the length front to back right in that midpoint. And there you can see that length. Now, as far as that grip width, which I do have the grips on it here, but they're not super thick by any means. You can see that grip width, but it does flare out towards the top of the buttons here. Let's stretch it out a little bit without pressing the buttons in. You can see it does get a little bit bigger up there. You also have that slight flare up front, but nothing drastic by any means. As you see it kind of dip right there. It's nothing really crazy at all. Now on the back, you do got that flare out as well. If we go right on the, let me get that centered up right there. Right on the back, a little bit of flare, and then up towards the top, you pretty much got that really inline flare right at the top to the bottom. So nothing really crazy. Now, as far as the hump, I wouldn't say it's definitely in the middle of the sensor as it goes right there, right to there. That's kind of where it's still gradually going up. So I would say your hump is more towards the back portion of the mouse. And you can see it right there. So again, sensor, and then that hump's right back here, kind of by that sticker, right up at the top right there. Then it starts dropping off towards the back end there. It is pretty much like everybody has said. It is an exact clone of the Endgame Gear XM1 shape. So if you like that shape, you're gonna love this. Now, I know many of us are very familiar with the XM1 shape, but if you're not, I'm gonna do the heat signature test here for you. Now, this will differ from hand size and then again, your grip, how you grip the mouse. But as far as me, it was definitely relaxed claws. You see it kind of sits there, it's forward in my hand, it's not back into my palm, but I could pull it back in my palm, but once I do, then I'm definitely kind of like seriously clawing this mouse. It's back in my palm, my fingers are up there, and it's just kind of in a couple weird positions, right? But I would say my primary grip was definitely up here, kind of relaxed like that. So let me go on and pull the heat signature camera over here, and I want to show you guys again. Let me get some heat transferred over this. Now, this mouse is magnesium, and we all know heat is a little bit tougher to transfer over to this, but hopefully I can show you somewhat again what those grip points are really like on this mouse whenever I let go over here. So this is again shown with my palm back in there, but if you see on this side, you're going to see a little bit of that heat over here and then towards the back. So it's kind of interesting how you're seeing that heat towards the back where it's not really sitting in my hand. That's just because it's magnesium, right? So if I push this out of the way, you're going to see again, it's setting right back there, but the whole hump is not in my hand. Hopefully you can see that. Again, heat signature test is very tough on a magnesium mouse. So I really want to apologize for my heat signature test not really working on this mouse, as that's one of my favorite tests. I know it's one of your guys as well, but with a magnesium mouse, especially with holes in it, the heat's just not going to transfer through. It's going to cool off really quick, but I hope my explanation kind of sits with you right there. Again, resting in the hand like this with your fingers going across. If you're pulling your palm, you're really clawing it there. So someone like me that uses a bigger ergo mouse and I really like something in my hand for that control locking in, I was kind of all over the place. I'm like, okay, do I rest it right here for control or do I pull it back here for control? For me, again, it kind of threw me for a little bit of loop, which we'll talk about later in the performance in my time actually using it. Now let's take a quick look at the weight of this mouse. And as I mentioned before, I did go with the bigger skates. Right out of the box, it does have dot skates on it and the grips aren't on it. So account that in a little bit of the weight right here, but putting it on the scale, we're coming in right at just say 50.6 grams. So right at 50 grams, and it is very, very very nice and balanced front to back on this mouse. Like the weight of this mouse is pretty darn perfect. Now we're gonna roll into the build quality and coding, and then we'll talk about the buttons on this mouse, kind of all about the build here. And number one, starting with the grips, as you see, I said I had to put them on because when I peel these off, you can see you got those slots on the side. So if I'm gripping this mouse up here, my fingers are instantly going into those slots. I wish the sides of these were solid, but whatever, we know that's how companies kind of shave that weight off right there. The grips work perfectly fine and you don't notice it at all. Your fingers aren't sinking into them. But again, I think the grips, at least for me, are much needed. I don't like my fingers pressing into those grips or those holes right there. But as far as the build quality, let's go and swip it around right here, and we're gonna press in. I'm not getting any flex, and I'm going up to like 13 pounds on this side. Nothing. Now let's check over by the buttons here. Still nothing. Like this thing is rock solid, like all the way up to the front as well. Now let's check the back here. Nothing right there either. And again, I'm going up to like 12 pounds across this entire mouse. Now the bottom of this is plastic, but the cool thing is it's fairly firm. I mean, you still get some flex, of course, but y'all remember on those recent Ponage mice, I can just barely press it without getting any numbers on the gauge at all, and it would just press right in. So it's nice to see them, again, give this a little bit of structure on the bottom, even though it's plastic and not magnesium, but all around, the build of this mouse is incredibly solid. Now, as far as the coating on this mouse, it's kind of hard for me to speak on because, again, I instantly had to go with the grips, and by the way, these grips are very nice and grippy. They're not mushy by any means, but they are soft. You don't feel the grooves within the mouse, so that's really nice. But on the 1 and 2, I really didn't get any of that slide like I get on other magnesium mice. I don't know if it's the paint coating or whatever, or maybe the texture in it, but my fingers weren't really sliding around, and there's no grooves up here either. It's just pretty much flat right across there, but it felt very good. Again, I don't know what they're doing with the coating here, but I didn't get any slippage on my 1 and 2s. Now, taking a quick look underneath this mouse, as you got your power switch, there is your sensor, a little sticker, and then you have your feet. And as I stated, right out of the box, the skates on these are dot skates. I do not like dot skates. I like big Zowie-esque, big full skates, which is kind of weird. The replacement one on the bottom, you can see it's just a U shape, but as far as in the frame, you got the groove right there to actually fit a full skate, which they got that cut out. So again, you can see their logo right there, which is kind of weird. I would have preferred a bigger skate, but these are nice, rounded off skates. I never caught any drag or any friction on a softer mouse surface by any means, so perfectly fine. It's just, again, I would have preferred a big skate right there. But again, that's just me nitpicking. It did perform very nice and smooth with these replacement feet on. Now, as far as the buttons on this mouse, they feel very, very nice, especially the 1 and 2, which I have the version with opticals, which you can also get in a mechanical version, which I usually don't like opticals, but these feel so nice. I mean, you press it down, you got a little bit of give after it right there, but you don't get that real springy effect because, again, there's very minimal travel. These are crispy, bam, right down to the point. You don't have any play left to right. I mean, these are some amazing 1 and 2s. Now, coming over to the side buttons, a little bit different, especially on the back one here. I do got a little bit of play. You can see if I press it towards the back end, it goes into the shell right there. You can kind of see the front spring out and the back kind of sink in there. Now, if you're doing more towards the middle, you're perfectly fine, which is kind of a weird design point here because you can see they're a little bit thicker in the middle and a little bit thinner towards the end. I think if they made them thick all the way across, we wouldn't really have that issue. I think we'd be perfectly fine. So minor little tweak, I think, could have made this mouse so much better. But all in all, these buttons feel amazing on this mouse. Now I want to talk about the performance in my actual time using the WLmouse Strider, which is really going to kind of conclude a lot of what I mentioned in the beginning of the video, how I really like last impressions or long-term reviews, because let me tell you what, like I wanted this mouse, not even I thought this mouse was going to be my main, right? It was so good, just using it in a hand, the build quality, the performance, everything was rock solid. I like the style of it, right? Everything about this mouse just felt great. But when I started gaming, I'm playing a lot of Call of Duty right now, and I'm playing with my son, right? I just got diamond on all my AR, so I was like, all right, let me go to SMGs, right? And that's in the time I was starting with the Strider here. And I'm like, man, I don't know what's going on. Like, I usually love SMGs, but I'm really not liking them at all here. I'm like, okay, let me go out and try like marksman or something. Maybe I'll try to diamond something else. And I was less like, what's going on? I'm even telling my son, I'm like, I'm jumping off. I don't know what's going on. I'm playing horrible, you know? I mean, I was still coming out positive, but I was not playing at my peak. You know, I was not coming in first or second all the time, you know? Which is a little bit of a disappointment. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. So anyways, then I go on and plug in my X-Lite V3, which is my main mouse. I love the X-Lite. It's a bigger ergo. It's the EC. And I was right back in the game using SMGs. I'm like, holy smokes, that's crazy. Like, I love the Strider. There's no question about it. The mouse is amazing. I pretty much wanted it to be my main because it felt so good and I just loved everything about it. But my performance was not on par, right? When I went back to the X-Lite, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm using my SMGs and I can definitely control my shots a lot more because again, it's filling out my hand, coming into my palm, and I still got that control up towards the front. When over on the Strider, it's one or the other. My hand's either resting on it, the palm's not back there, or I'm up in my palm and I'm losing my control in the front. So I'm kind of just one or the other. So I think if you're a faster gameplay, you don't really kind of hold your shots. Now, I do move around fast. I'm not a camper. I don't sit around or anything like that. But say if you're playing Fortnite or something like that and you're moving around constantly, or maybe a battle royale game and you're looting and stuff like that, I think that's where a flick and dip kind of dance around mouse like this would really come into play. When someone like me, again, I'm moving around a lot, but I'm really holding my shots, right? Kind of trying to get those headshots right now going diamond. I could not get that with the Strider. It was really bringing me down because I wanted to continue using the mouse, but on a performance, a self-performance side, I couldn't. As a raw performance, as far as the product, it was absolutely flawless. That's me using that 4,000 polling rate. I had no issues whatsoever. So the results of my long-term testing of the new WLmouse Strider is, number one, this mouse is amazing. It is solid. It performs great. It's aesthetically pleasing. I think the price at 145 bucks justifies it with all you're getting right here. This is an absolutely awesome mouse. I think WLmouse is just making a splash in the space lately. You know, I love what they're doing. They're delivering just a quality product. I really believe that. But unfortunately for me, and again, going in line with my last impressions or long-term review, like if I was to review this the first week that I got this, I would have been like, yo, this is my main. Like seriously, I was thinking this is going to be the title of my video. It's going to be my main. So let me just get myself ready to be trashed by people in the comments saying, oh, he's saying it's his main. Every mouse is his main. Well, no mouse has been my main since the X-Lite, right? That has been my main for a long time. But that's just the internet. That's what they do. So I was getting myself ready for the comments. But using it for a few more weeks and everything, I was like, okay, well, no, maybe this is not. And I was almost disappointed. I'm like, man, this mouse is so good. Like, I want to keep using it, but I just wasn't performing great. And why that was again, the shape. I just need something with a little bit more hump. So if I'm looking at, like, say, what is this? X2H. The X2H has a bigger hump on the back, so it'll sit in my palm a little bit more and I can control it a little more. Even over to the Viper V3 Pro. Again, it's a little bit longer, so it goes back into my palm. This is all just my hand shape and size. Again, the easiest way to put it is if you like the XM or the Endgame Gear XM1, you're going to love this. A lot of people love that shape, and if you love it, this is going to be an absolutely phenomenal pickup for you. Yes, I highly recommend it, but again, if you got a bigger hand like me and you main ergos, just keep in mind there's really no plumpness on this. Me personally, I need it either wider, longer, or a little bit taller here for it to be something I can main, but hands down, even though I'm not going to main this mouse, wow, this one is awesome.